the goodness of God frees you. It frees you from everything. In Psalm 27, verse 13, one of my life verses, Psalm 27, verse 13, I would have despaired. I would have despaired unless I believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. So when I'm saying to you is the goodness of God frees you from everything, I'm really talking about our emotions here. It frees us from toxic emotions. It frees us from despair. I would have despaired. This word despair, it means to give up. It means to feel beat, to feel defeated. It means to be utterly at loss. It's to be utterly at a loss, utterly without resource, utterly without hope, without a good alternative, no exit strategy. That's what that word despair means. And I would have despaired unless I believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. In other words, everything in our lives, all of our emotions, whether our emotions are going to be positive or whether they're going to be negative, completely hinge themselves upon what we believe. All of our emotions completely hinge themselves on what we believe. I would have despaired. I would have been depressed. I would have been in total grief unless I believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. You see, His goodness frees you from toxic emotions. His goodness frees you from despair. His goodness frees you from anxiety. His goodness frees you from fear. His goodness frees you from all of those things because you believe you're going to see it in the land of the living. Wow, He says, unless I believed I would see, you're going to see it. Look at what He says, how it works. I believe it, therefore I will see it. We can't be those believers that have to see it to believe it. We're going to be those believers that are going to see it. But He said we believe it and then we'll see it. Unless I believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord. What are you going to see? His goodness, His faithfulness, His loyal devotion, His abundance, His provision. I would have despaired. You see, all emotional suffering is the result of what we believe about that thing or what we believe in spite of that thing. And I believe that you're going to see God's goodness. Maybe you've seen a lot of badness. Maybe you've seen a lot of things contrary to the goodness of God. Well, we all have, right? We've seen sickness and virus and financial problems and emotional problems. We've seen loved ones. We've heard of family members, loved ones, friends, people that have taken their own lives. They didn't believe that they would see the goodness of the Lord. Because when you believe you'll see it, it swallows up your despair. It swallows up your sadness. It swallows up your sorrow. This is not about pointing out somebody's flaw or pointing out somebody's lack of faith. That's not my point here. My point is that for me as a person, for me as a man, for me as a believer, just like you, unless I set my belief on something, I'm going to lose control of my emotions. I'm going to give in and surrender to something because in the absence of believing that I'm going to see the goodness of the Lord, I'm going to end up believing something. I'll end up believing that I'm going to see something bad, or I end up expecting something negative as Job expected. He said, man, something bad's going to happen. And what he feared had come upon him. What he feared had come upon him. And listen, what he feared was simply what he believed. He believed the bad, and that's called fear. Or we believe the good, and that's called faith. And what is our faith really in? Our faith is in the love of God. Our faith is in the love of God, and that's why I believe, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, I'm going to see the goodness of God in the land of the living.